You're tuned in to Faith, Finance, and Forgiveness. Welcome, everyone. I am Jeneé of JeneéM.com. I'm an entrepreneur and financial professional, and I teach people how to manage their money so they can pay off debt, build wealth, and create a strong legacy. So for those of you who are tuned in to for the first time, I want to welcome you. If you are on SoundCloud, please make sure that you follow and share this broadcast. If you're on YouTube, please make sure that you leave a comment down below and that you also subscribe and share. This is going to be a great episode. We're talking about what not to do with your tax refund. And I thought that this was a timely topic because people are getting their tax refund checks direct deposited into their account. And I actually had someone from whose taxes I did, because I'm an accountant by trade, follow up with me to let me know that they did not get their state refund check yet. And so, I was helping them through that. But I thought that this would be a timely topic because as people are getting their tax refund checks, there's this urge that some people might have to spend the money that they get. So if that's you, I want to make sure that I catch you in time to really make you think about how to wisely use the money that you've been given. Now I have some notes in front of me, so excuse me if you hear paper rattling, but let's talk about it. So when I'm talking about your tax refund and why it's important that you use that money wisely is because you have people out there, and you may have experienced this as well, where they come into a sum of money and they're not used to having a lot of money. And so the first thing that they do is they go out and they buy something, whether they go shopping and buy up a whole bunch of stuff, or they buy a new car, maybe they use the money to buy a new house. And then fast forward a few years later, they have a whole bunch of bills and they're wondering why their money won't stretch to pay those bills. So if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you feel like you have more bills than money, you have more money going out, and it's like every time you turn around, you have to pay this person and that person, you have to pay for this and that, and you feel like you can't see the trees above the forest because you're stuck trying to pay all these people because you said yes to all of these things and accumulated all of this debt. So I want to help you so that way you don't get yourself into that situation. And if you're somebody who may already be there, I want to help prevent you from getting into this situation again. So we're going to be talking about today what not to do with your tax refund. And I'm going to educate you on what are the things that you need to consider so that way you make wiser choices, and so you can avoid making the same mistakes twice if you have already done something like what I'm talking about. Like I remember when I was going through some entitlement issues because at the time I had taken a job where I took a massive pay cut, and I was so used to living off of, more money than I was making at the time. And so I did not deny myself, and it was hard to deny myself because even growing up as a child, I was used to getting everything that I wanted. So hearing the word no, it didn't feel good to me and it rubbed me the wrong way. So as an adult, I made sure I went to college and got my degree in something that would lead to a good paying job. So that way I did not have to deny myself the pleasures of life. Well, that wasn't the season that I was in. I was in a season where I had to be mindful of how I spent. And so instead of having the mindset that I'm not accumulating any debt, at that time I really didn't have any other than my mortgage and student loans. Instead of, just going through my life with that mentality, I made the mistake in going to a timeshare presentation all by myself. Now, I had went to 2 or 3 beforehand, but I had my sister with me. So this time it was one that was closer to home, and she couldn't come with me, so I ended up going by myself. I thought I'd be strong enough, because I really wasn't interested. But then when I went, I ended up making friends with the lady. And so that is error number 1. If you make friends with the person that's trying to sell you something, more often than not, you're going to end up buying it. So that's where I went wrong the first time. And then I ended up actually getting it, even though it didn't make sense. I had I just got my license. And I was overly optimistic about the opportunity that I had in front of me. So I just got my life and annuities license, and I knew that the field was very lucrative. So I was overly optimistic about my ability to be able to pay off this timeshare. So my goal was to pay it off within a year. So I said, let me go ahead and do this. It's not that expensive. So I went ahead and bought it, only to get stuck with, a payment that was not in my budget and that my budget couldn't support. And so that made things hard for a little while. And eventually, I got a raise, and, I was able to pay it with no problem. But it was uncomfortable for a few months, and that's because, and we'll talk about this later on in the segment, but that was because I was looking from the surface and not really thinking about, what this would mean for me, months from now or even years from now. So if you're somebody who really wants to reach a point of financial freedom where you have more money available, that you can actually enjoy and live the life you want, not accumulating debt, but I'm more focused on creating memories and experiences. So if you're somebody like that, taking your family on vacation and being able to pay cash for it, and all types of vacations. If you're somebody that wants to live a life that looks like that, and you want to have the money to be able to do it, to take trips, and to do different things, then you're definitely in the right place, because the information that I'll be sharing with you today is going to be helpful. So again, if you are just tuning in, make sure that you comment down below if you're on YouTube. Also, make sure you subscribe and share this. And if you're on SoundCloud, make sure that you follow and share this podcast as well. So, what we're talking about today is what not to do with your tax refund. So, imagine someone, and at some level, you should be able to relate to this because, quite honestly, when you look at the statistics about the amount of people who are saving and what they actually have in their savings accounts, this percentages are really low. And so there's a lot of people, and consumerism is a big thing now. They're accumulating a lot of debt, and debt for some people is very overwhelming. It's stressful. It makes you worry. I even know from experience, when I had taken on that timeshare and I was trying to figure out how could I pay for it within the year, I had developed the eye twitch, so it can bring on all manner of things, can manifest from you worrying and stressing over bills and how things are going to get paid. And if you're not making enough money, or if you know that you make good money, but you're not able to have enough left over at the end of the month. If that is you, then this podcast, this episode is for you. So, let's think about the flip side of this thing. So say, for instance, you find yourself dealing with any of those things. Imagine what it would feel like to be able to keep more of your money and create those experiences and memories like we talked about earlier. You would be able to enjoy life. You would be able to clear up some mental space by not thinking about those things, worrying over those things, stressing over those things. But you can actually enjoy your life. You can enjoy the time that you have. I was looking at my timeline today, and an old coworker of mine, I saw on my timeline, she just buried her daughter. And I don't know what the circumstances were, but it was extremely unfortunate. So our time is very limited. So it's important that we make the most of the time that we have, because it's not promised. And life is definitely too short to be stressed and worried over money. Plus, when you stress and worry about money, you can cause unnecessary medical expenses. I had to go to the eye doctor to see about my eye because of my twitch. I had to pay for eye drops with steroids in them to help my eye. And so, some people, they develop hypertension or high blood pressure, or even aggravate some conditions that they already have, whether it's diabetes or the disorder that has to do with the kidneys. But it's real stuff. It's real stuff. A lot of the illnesses that we deal with, just thinking spiritually, it's a result of some type of emotion that we've allowed to manifest and get out of control. So it's definitely not healthy. You want to be mindful of it, and you want to make sure you're not just addressing the symptoms, but the root of what's causing it. Even if you're stressed out at work, that's another thing that can cause, health issues and challenges. So if you are dealing with any health challenges, make sure that you're addressing the root and not the symptoms. So if you're somebody who is dealing with debt, and you feel yourself almost drowning sometimes, and you want to make it out, I'm going to go through 3 steps that you can do with your tax refund. Because we're not going to go out and accumulate more debt and more bills. So I'm going to tell you what to do, so that way you can do this and not the opposite, which is go out and buy up a whole bunch of stuff. So first, you want to make sure that you're buying for tomorrow and not for today. So the first step is that you want to make sure that you're buying for tomorrow and not for today. A lot of people get tricked into buying stuff because they see that they can afford the monthly payments, but they're not thinking about the actual price tag. So I'll give you an example. Verizon, now they are selling cell phones. These are like $600 or $800 cell phones that you can finance for only $20 a month. So if somebody wants a brand new phone and they know that they can afford $20 a month, and they're saying, oh, I can do that, that's no problem, then they'll take on that phone, but the phone didn't cost $20 a month. It really costs $600 or $800, and that's what people don't think about. I've had conversations with some of my clients that I work one-on-one with about one wanted to buy a laptop, and the laptop was a little over $1,000, but they had the opportunity to finance it through getting a credit card with Best Buy. And this was somebody that I was working with to try to get out of debt. So it definitely didn't make sense for them to take on another bill. And so my response to her was, why don't you find something that you can pay in cash? So that way you don't have another bill. You're already working towards paying your debt off. So why add something else to the mix? Now, granted, she did need a laptop because she's studying for, an exam for her job to get a certification. But there are smarter ways to do it. And so you want to think about the long-term effects of, or the long-term price tag of what you're buying, and not just what you see on the surface. The second thing, you want to do the 12-month test, or even going, below that, do the 90-day test. So the 90-day or the 12-month test is basically where you ask yourself, in 90 days, do I see myself still feeling the same way about this thing? Do I see myself still using it? Do I see myself still even wanting it? Either 90 days or 12 months from now. And that'll give you a good idea of whether it is you really need it. And if you want it, how bad do you actually want it? Because a lot of times we can accumulate stuff. Stuff everywhere. And you end up later on having to figure out how you're going to get rid of everything. So you can buy a whole bunch of stuff that takes up so much space, and you want to have a nice room that's not cluttered and all this stuff, but you have electronics in the corner, you have all this extra furniture that you don't really need, you have a closet full of clothes, most that you don't even wear, simply because you bought all this stuff. So you want to do the 90-day or the 12-month test, which is basically where you're asking yourself, in 90 days, do you see yourself using this? Or in 12 months, do you see yourself using it? And if the answer is no, then save your money. You don't need it, so don't buy it. And it's as simple as that. And then lastly, and we talked about this a little bit in the first step that I gave, but the third step is to know the final price tag and then decide. If you are going to purchase a new cell phone, understand that you're not paying $19 a month. You're not paying $19 a month. You are, yes, that's what's drafted out of your account, but the actual price tag for the phone is the $600 or the $800. So at least make sure you know at the end of the day what you're actually paying for. If you're buying a car, and this gets a lot of people, you want to look beyond the monthly payment. If you're buying a car, you are financing it, which means you're paying interest on it. So you want to know how much, when it's all said and done with, you are going to have to pay in order to own that vehicle. The price tag may say $13,995, but after price processing, taxes, fees, and interest charges, and if you have a 3-year car loan, you can end up paying, $16,000 after it's all said and done with, and most likely more, depending on your interest rate. So you want to make sure that you understand what the final price tag is going to be. Even for credit cards, when you get your statement in the mail, by law, the companies have to show how much you'll end up paying over time if you just pay the minimum. And for some people on their credit card statements, it shows that they'll end up paying it off if they just do the minimum after 10 plus years. So you want to make sure that whatever money you're using that's not yours, meaning you're using credit in order to obtain it, or you're financing it, that's the same thing. You want to make sure you know at the end of the day what is everything that you're going to pay for, because that's important. So what not to do with your refund is to buy a bunch of stuff to accumulate debt, but you want to use that money to pay off stuff that you already have and pay down things that you already have if it's not enough to pay stuff off. And I have a training on my website that helps you with organizing the debts that you have and giving you a timeline of when those debts will be paid off based on you putting an extra bit of money aside each month to pay on the debts that you have. So it's called Destroying Debt. It's a training that I have available on my website, jeneem.com, jeneem.com. So on the home page, if you scroll down to the center of the page, it'll say I'm ready to, and it'll say pay down debt or something of that nature. That's the button that you want to click on, and you'll be redirected to the Destroying Debt training, where you'll get a template where you can basically load in the debts that you have, and based on the amount that you got for your refund, you can use that as your first payment towards your debt, and you'll see when your debts will be paid off, and you'll also see how much you'll end up spending over time once all your debts are paid off. So that gives you a good idea based on the money that you've already spent, because you know how much you've paid into what you have. You'll see the balances of everything that you owe. You'll see how much interest you'll end up paying when it's all said and done with. And you'll see how long all your debts will be paid off and how much you'll end up spending in total on all of your debts with the interest charges. So I definitely recommend that for those of you who are serious about getting rid of their debt this year. I know I definitely am, because it's time that we live a life that we can actually enjoy. I'm definitely not perfect, and I don't count myself out of the number, but it's all about making intentional steps forward. And so this year I've committed this to be the year where I pay off all my debt, so that way next year I can focus on not just paying down the mortgage on my home, but also using the money that I'll have available, because I won't be paying on certain things, to overfund the different strategies that I have in place to build wealth for myself. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, please make sure that you follow and share this broadcast on YouTube. Please make sure that you leave a comment down below, and also subscribe so that way you get notified for a future episode. And I look forward to talking with you all on the next broadcast. So thank you all for tuning in, and have a great one. Bye-bye.